Kyle, when are we gonna get a new intro?
When you request one, mate.
I'm requesting it now. We need a new intro, mate. We need a
Okay.
new
I mean,
intro.
I don't know why you're asking me. I don't do the visuals, mate. I
You
don't
do
do the
the. I
visuals.
need some. Give me some sounds. Give me some sounds.
I think you found it
And
works the other way. I need the visuals to get the sounds. Oh, that's what they're working with. This is the sound that goes with it. How can I give you
all right,
sound before visuals? Give me some visuals and I'll work something.
all right. Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm looking different in them in the pictures. I don't even have my lock. My yeah, looking different. That those some of those visuals are old still, but listen, we're here and we're still here. We've been about episode 82. Anyone listening on the podcast, that was just the intro. They've got some visuals on the YouTube, so that's what we're talking about. But yeah, episode 82, Neeks podcast. And today we're just talking F1, to be honest. Obviously, usually it's a bit of football, this, that, whatever. But today we're just focusing on F1. Tonight, should I say. This is the night before it all begins. Now, obviously, we've had our practice sessions today, but the real juice, the real meat starts tomorrow, Saturday, the 4th of March, where we're going to have our first qualifying session in the Bahrain Grand Prix F1 2023. I don't even know why I'm sounding so excited because I've got nothing to be excited about. This season is an absolute write-off before it's even started. Stop the count, void the season. Let's go again for 2024 because anyone that's supporting Mercedes, anyone that's supporting Lewis Hamilton, don't forget it. Just forget it. Forget about it. Forget about it. That's how I'm feeling, Kyle. How are you feeling before the start of this season?
Man, honestly, not not much hope, man. Like there's very little hope. It's like Red Bull are looking more polished than they were last season. Because I don't remember last season, right? They started the season and everyone was like, "Oh, they've they look like they got the fastest car," but we weren't sure because obviously they were fighting Ferrari in the first race in Bahrain last year. Remember the back to back with Max and Charles Leclerc, and then in the end, both Red Bulls ended up engine failure. And I think for like the first 5 or 6 races, that was Red Bull. Like they were struggling to complete races. They were having mechanical failures. So we were like, oh, have they got reliability issues? But as soon as they sorted that out, after about 5 races, it was just full steam ahead, and everyone else. Well, I say everyone else, but Ferrari capitulated, and Mercedes were never up to speed. But this time round, it's like having that year experience of the new rules and regulations and experiencing that porpoising that started at the start of the season that teams were struggling with Red Bull already, and it don't look like anyone can stop them. So yeah, I don't got much hope, man. I haven't got much hope. I can't lie to you.
It's gonna be a long season, man. Like, it ain't even started already. Everyone's clutching. Like I'm sitting here as a Lewis Hamilton fan, clutching at the hope that Alonso can pull something out of the bag. Lewis Hamilton fans supporting Fernando Alonso. Now, obviously, we know that they've got the history between them, and Alonso despises him. And while he's public with it without being direct, whereas Hamilton's very much kind of just keep it in house. He's very close about his responses. So it's hard for me. I liked Alonso growing up, but then it all kind of just fell apart when Hamilton joined McLaren back in '07. Um, and there's always been these little slide digs, and you see Alonso holding up Hamilton, being the more defensive against him than anyone on the track. Like he takes pleasure. He takes
Yeah.
pleasure in denying Hamilton in races. It's like obviously there's two veterans on the track, two legends of the sport. But you got this Verstappen fella, this Verstappen geezer, who's nicked his way to 2 championships. And for me, there's two asterisks. There's 2 asterisks on those championships.
The
I
second
was
one can't be considered an
I,
asterisk
I
for
was
me.
only given one, but David in the group chat, he's right. It's 2 asterisks. So you got the one, and Erhan here says Verstappen getting number 3. I'm still waiting for Verstappen to get number 1. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm waiting for Verstappen to get number one because he stole his way to the first championship. As far as I'm concerned, Hamilton's got 8. So he's the undeniable goal. Like for me, he's already got, but undisputed. He's got 8 already. And then he got the cost cap cheating bonanza. Like, so the first they cheat, they paid Massey allegedly for the first championship. Then they pay extra to bump up and upgrade their car. And they can't be trusted. So for me, I'm waiting for what Verstappen, if you can get your debut win this year, congratulations, innit?
But the cost cap was for the first win.
Yeah, but we know that they're working on next year's car during the previous season. So it all molds into one, it all flies into one. They've just been cheating. Yeah, I don't know. Listen, he's definitely got one asterisk on there, but don't want to sound too salty. Listen, let's talk about this 2023 drivers lineup. So a couple changes. Obviously, the big one.
More than a couple, man. There's a
few. But the biggest one for me was obviously not that it was a surprise, but we had Sebastian Vettel retiring from the sport. 4-time champion, another guy who somehow stole his way to 4 championship. I mean,
come on now.
He's a decent driver. He's decent. He's all right. He can get round the track in one piece if nobody's challenging him. But you put a car in his rear view, and it all goes tits up, innit? He is not full-time worthy champion. I'm not having it. I'm not having it.
He is, man. Cut the man some slack. Sometimes everyone got their weakness, innit?
What's his weakness? Can't race.
No, stop that, man.
But we got Vettel retiring from the sport. Obviously, he was at Aston Martin. Fernando Alonso's joined Aston Martin from Alpine. So that's the one. So that's one change there. Fernando Alonso out of Alpine into Aston Martin to replace Sebastian Vettel. Into the Alpine to replace Fernando Alonso is Pierre Gasly. He left AlphaTauri. And they brought in Nick de Vries, who is a rookie driver one of the rookie drivers this year. At Haas, so Mick Schumacher's been dropped. I think he's actually doing what they call it, like test driver kind of thing for Mercedes. Yeah. Mercedes, yeah. I feel like there's another. I think there's 2 teams that he's actually doing tests for. Actually, backup man. I think there's 2. So Mick Schumacher, maybe he's gonna, once Hamilton gets 9 championships, he's gonna replace him at Mercedes to follow in his father's footsteps. That would be terrible for Mercedes. Mick Schumacher, yeah, he's out. So Nico Hulkenberg is back. Somehow Nico Hulkenberg has found his way back into F1, and he's going to be at Haas. At McLaren, Danny Ricciardo is out. He had a horrid year. Oh, he had a horrid year. It was sad to watch. I don't know if you feel the same, but I was watching it like, oh, this guy he's finished.
McLaren had a horrid year. All in all.
Yeah, but didn't he get out like driven by Lando like nearly every? It wasn't even just getting out driven. It was like Lando will make it into Q3. My man's finishing 16th, getting knocked out in Q1. Like it was bad. Oh, it was a sad watch. So it was
he couldn't get to grips with the car, innit?
Yeah, he's finished, isn't it? I don't know more to say, but yeah, he's out. And Oscar Piastri, who's another rookie driver, he is in at McLaren alongside Lando Norris. And Williams Latifi. Well, the less said about Latifi, the better. So he's out, and Logan Sargent is in. He's another rookie driver. So we've got 3 rookie drivers, a couple of vets, and defending champs and and all-time champs. Big up, oh my Dizzy in the chat. Yeah, we'll definitely get you on throughout the season. If I forget, just shout me. Obviously, where you got my number and everything, but I'll log that one for going forward. But that's the changes. Are any of those changes you excited about? You're interested? You think, that's one to look out for. Any of the rookies? I don't really follow
I
the
mean,
F2 like that.
I'm interested to watch Piastri. I mean, they're all kind of closely skilled in terms of their talent and potential. They're all pretty close. I think people are saying that Sargent's probably, in terms of raw pace, he's probably the quickest out of the three of them. Probably not by much. Sargent and De Vries. Was it De Vries? No, it wasn't De Vries actually. But yeah, I think Sargent's probably the quickest out of all three of them. Piastri's probably the best out of all three of them. And De Vries has probably got the most expectation on. I mean, well, Piastri's definitely got the most expectation because he's with McLaren, and he has a stat that he has won F2 and F3 back to back. He won F3 and F2 back to back. And the only other people that have done it have gone on to win multiple F1 championships. So any other races any other races in the past that have won back-to-back F3 and F2 have gone on to win multiple F1 championship titles. So there's that expectation on him that he's got huge potential in that. Piastri is one of a rare few that has done a back-to-back F3, F2 title winning championship. So he's probably got the most expectation. But De Vries, he was in the F1 car last year. He's got that experience, even though it was may have been a few races. But he came in for Latifi and he tore it up. When I say tore it up, he was doing very good, and everyone was like, "Why Latifi couldn't be doing this for Williams?" He was doing very good last season at the back end when he came in, and he basically just gave it his all, just no pressure because the season was pretty much done for Williams, and yeah, he put on a good show. So there's that expectation that people are going to be looking back what he did last season in those few races that he had and be like, well, surely you can do something. But at the end of the day, it's still only a Williams car, so you can't expect too much.
This is it. There's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
Big up Shane in the chat, Shane Malone. Yeah, we're good. I can see you're a Man United fan there, so things are looking good. But today we're talking F1. Tomorrow, actually, I'm going to do a video before. We're going to talk Man United, basically. So Ten Hag, and obviously we've got the big derby, Northwest derby, coming up against Liverpool on Sunday, but we'll leave that till tomorrow. Right, so in terms of the lineups now, so obviously I've gone through some of the changes. Alfa Romeo. Oh, sorry. Let me start from the champions, Red Bull. Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez, as expected, no change there. Ferrari, your guys, you got Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. Mercedes, no change again. Hamilton, Russell. This would be Russell's second year at Mercedes, second full season. Alpine, Gasly, as I said, new Gasly and Esteban Ocon. I rate Esteban Ocon. I've rated him from day one. I think he's got a good career in him.
He does. Didn't he already have a stint at Red Bull? Or was that someone else?
No.
It was Gasly. It was Gasly. Yeah.
Gasly was at Toro Rosso, and then he went to Red Bull for about 6 months, and then but Ocon was in the pink Mercedes.
Force India.
But it wasn't Force India change. Was it not? Was it Alpine?
Alpine was what Force India changed to.
Yeah. So but it was still pink, but it wasn't called Force India at the time when he was there. But I was rating from there. Then he was out of the game. He was reserved. Wasn't he reserved for Mercedes actually? I think he might have been reserved for Mercedes. Mercedes got their hand in a lot of these pies anyway, a lot of these cars. Yeah. McLaren, Lando Norris, and as you mentioned, Oscar Piastri. Alfa Romeo, Zhao Gunyao. I can't remember how to pronounce his name, but Zhao.
Joe Ganyu.
That's it. Shogun Yu. Shogun reminds me of a Tekken character. He has a,
Oh.
yeah, and Valtteri Bottas. Oh, Valtteri Bottas. What a
No,
joke, man.
don't do that. Don't do that.
Joke,
Don't
man.
do that.
That
You
was a
can't
joke.
say you can't say his name like that, and don't say Sergio Perez's name.
Yeah, but I got expectations. I had expectations about Bottas. He was riding with a champion. Bottas is just there, isn't it? I know Bottas. Perez is just there, isn't it?
Okay, and now he's riding with a champion.
Well, asterisk champion. Aston Martin, Fernando Alonso, Lance Stroll. At Haas, Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hulkenberg. Why do I feel like these two have driven together before? Or have they? No, they haven't. Who was Hulkenberg? No, Hulkenberg was Ricardo when he was at who were they with? The yellow car. Can't remember now. Was it McLaren? No, it wasn't McLaren.
Why are you getting at me? I'm confused.
Who was Hulkenberg with before when he was in the before he left the sport?
I don't know.
It was the yellow car, man.
If it was a yellow card, then it would have been Maldonado.
Renault, that's it. Renault. He was with Renault. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be Maldonado, no?
I don't think he was. I don't think his last season was with Maldonado. Thank God Maldonado was out of that seat for a good minute before then. Thank God for that, and thank God, for everyone he was racing with. I can't remember who his last season at Renault was with. But yeah, that is not that important. But he's with Kevin Magnussen at Haas. AlphaTauri got Tsunoda, and as we mentioned, De Vries. But what's his name? Lance Stroll is going to be racing the first race, isn't he? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, he is.
But for what car is he racing with for the first race?
Who?
Lance Stroll. Is it
Aston Martin?
That's the Martin still. Okay.
Yeah.
I think he's terrible, mate. I think he's terrible. Williams have got Alex Albon and Logan Sargent. So that's the grid. Right, before we talk about what we're expecting for the season, let's go through some of these chats. So Baz1 says, are we betting on this? Are we talking about, I guess, the F1 fantasy? No, the rules have changed for F1 fantasy this year. There's a lot of changes. So make sure you go on there, submit your team. Try to do it tonight, actually, because obviously it locks tomorrow just before qualifying, whatever time qualifying is. I can't.
3 p.m.
3 p.m. Okay. So do it as soon as you can. There's more selections in terms of drivers and constructors than we had last year. There's 2 constructors. So bit of a change. So we're not going to do any prizes this year. But going forward, if we get a good bunch of people in the league, then we can start talking money, prize, etc., etc. But join this year, and we go from there. Shane Malone says, what happened to Schumacher? I think Haas needed to change, man. Haas needed to change. They were going nowhere very, very quickly. And
it's only so long you can hang on to legacy for.
Exactly.
I feel like he was there because of legacy. Because everyone could always see that he just didn't quite have it. You know when you see someone and you're like, yeah, they got it. Eventually, someday they can do something. Like you look at Lando Norris, even though he hasn't had the best couple of years, you look at him and you say, eventually, someday there's the possibility he could do something, be a world champion. You never know where his career might end up. But then you look at someone like Schumacher, and it's just like, no, it's never going to amount to anything. Like,
yeah,
you need a change.
I think they're just hanging on. Like, it's obviously the legacy's there, and because of the name Schumacher, he's gonna bring like advertisement revenue. But as you said, that can only go for so long. And how like can the amount that he brings in terms of commercial revenue offset the poor results that's financially is going to cost the team in one way or another? And obviously they couldn't do that anymore. So it's like when they had, was it Haas who had who's the Russian guy? Is it Mazepin?
Mazepin.
Yeah, and obviously because of the regulations around Russia, they weren't allowed to have him anymore. But he was never a good enough driver. He weren't good, but he was bringing out Russian money. So yeah, we'll see. Schumacher, I think he's still young. I can't remember exactly his exact age, but he's still young. So you never know. There's been, Esteban Ocon was out of the sport, and he's come back in. He's a reserve driver for Mercedes, so he's still in and around 23 years old. His career's not done, but I'm not seeing enough at the moment to say, yeah, he's going to have a successful F1 career. But yeah, we have to wait and see. All right. Let's look at this season going forward now. So we've seen the drivers' lineups. I am going to now share the practice. Now, there's only so much we can take from practice. I don't even study testing. Testing is a joke. The testing is not for us.
It's just there for to make sure everything's working.
Exactly. We're just looking at the cars going around, really, but we can't make any judgment. You can make maybe a bit more judgment from practice, but we also see that sometimes in P1, P2, teams are not really going all out, and then P3 maybe you might get something else. Or then in qualifying, you get the real deal in qualifying. Not even in Q1 and Q2. Sometimes it's all Q3 before you actually see the true pace of a car. So all of this is just jostling and.
I find that. I watched the P1, P2 today, and I was watching it with someone, and I was saying to them, generally, I find that P2 is a pretty much fair reflection, because last year, the time that was set in qualifying for pole position, Charles Leclerc got pole last year in Bahrain, and he set a time of 1 minute 30.5. Alonso finished P2 with 1 minute 30.9, so 4/10 slower than what qualifying pole position got, and using an Aston Martin, than what they got last year. And obviously they tune it down a little bit for practice. So if his car is tuned down, he's not far off what they were kind of moving around last year. But I say P2s sometimes can be a fair reflection, because in P2 they do their qualifying simulation runs, and then in P3 they tend not to go all out, because you don't want to risk the driver spinning and crashing just before qualifying. So it's just like a final checkup to make sure the clutch and everything is working. All right, is everything working? Good.
Make sure the car's not bounced.
Make sure everything's nothing's not broken. There's no leaks. Everything's working all right. And they'll be like, okay, we're ready for qualifying, and then they will go out in qualifying. So sometimes P2 is a good reflection, because they always do their qualifying simulation in P2. And when Alonso did his one,
let's have a look at that. So this is FP1. So FP1, we had Sergio Perez top the timesheets, did 21 laps. Alonso 4/10 back, 22 laps. Verstappen 6/10 or 2/10 further back, 21 laps. Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Lance Stroll, Magnussen, Zhou. Was it Guan Yu?
Yeah, Zhou Guan Yu.
Yeah, Zhou Guan Yu. Bottas, Hamilton, and Russell splitting the top half and bottom half in 10th and 11th. Piastri, Tsunoda, Hulkenberg, Ocon, De Vries, Gasly, Sargent, Albon, and Carlos Sainz bringing up the rear. Pause. Lava. Now, yeah, that's a why still. Man, can't bring out the rear. It's so weird because you got Leclerc sitting in 5th and then Sainz in 7th, and now obviously they had some issues. But when you run 21 laps, you're expecting something like what's going on at Ferrari right now? What's going on at Ferrari? That was FP1. We'll get on to into depth. In the FP2 there, we've got let me make that a bit. That's some size. Alonso topping the timesheet. So he went from 2nd to 1st, from FP1 to FP2. Verstappen 1/10 back. Perez a further 10th. Leclerc again in the top 5. Hulkenberg, Stroll, Gasly, Hamilton 8th. Norris, Joe, Ocon, Bottas, Russell dropping down to 13th from his FP1, Sainz up to 14th from 20th, Piastri, Magnussen, Albon, Sonoda, De Vries, and Sargent. Now, obviously, yeah, it is still practice. But what are you taking from this? Looking at Ferrari, looking at Verstappen, and I guess Alonso. But starting with Ferrari, what's Ferrari saying this practice?
I mean, Ferrari promised us. They made a few new signings in the technical area, the heads above that made the decisions on race day, and the guys that are key to making sure that Ferrari are sound and reliable, and that they were going to come good this season. And we've come in practice 1 and practice 2. I've seen clutch issues, and I'm seeing signs going for spins and walkies off the track, and it's nervous times. It's nervous times.
It's a mess, yeah.
I mean, they were saying that they generally have a 1 lap pace. They have over 1 lap. They have a 1 lap pace. They can, if everything is put together correctly, they can put together a good 1 lap pace. But the problem is the consistency of being able to bring out that pace lap after lap. It's not there. So it's worrying times for Ferrari, because we all know that it's not just a fast car that wins. It's a reliable car that also wins. The car has to be reliable. If the car doesn't work, you're not going to get any points. So yeah, Ferrari had issues. They had multiple issues. They were also trying a new rear wing that they think is going to make them a lot more competitive, and it's just moving all over the place at the moment. They can't get it to work. So they took it out from practice 1 and put in their normal rear wing. For practice 2, it was a lot more stable, but again, still a few issues, and yeah, it's gonna be a long season for them. There's a lot of teams that are trying, like Red Bull is like comfortable. They're not trying anything new. They're like,
because they've got a working setup.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
exactly.
Like,
they got a winning formula. They got a winning formula, and they're sticking to it. Ferrari, they're trying out new parts in practice 1 that they haven't tried out before. They're trying out new parts in practice 1. It's not working, so they take them out and go with their standard normal parts for practice 2.
Didn't they reduce the amount of testing that teams could do before the start of the season? I think they reduced. I think there's only 1. So that kind of like, I think they used to have 2 test kind of periods, and now they just have 1.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Now they're just using the practice to do testing on different parts. It's crazy.
Yep. And then you've got Mercedes, who were at the start of the season. Toto was like, "Oh, we're gonna go with Plan A," and Plan A is basically them going with no side pods. This 0 pod strategy. That's what they call it, 0 pods. So they don't have no side pod, and they said that there's a theory behind it, and if they can get it spot on, basically it's going to make them super competitive. And then he goes, if it's proven that it's not going to work for us in the long run, so give it some time, we're going to try and develop it. If it's not going to work, then we switch to Plan B. And he said Plan B is pretty much going with a more Red Bull setup. But obviously the downside there is that Red Bull's been doing it for longer, so they're still going to be ahead of you. And how long are you going to wait? They've not waited until all of but 2 practice sessions. They've ordered the new part for the new side pods, so they can have side pods, and it should arrive by what race is it? I can't remember. Like, I think it's race 3 or race 4. So they've ordered the side pods now because it's not going to work. So they've already switched to Plan B. They switched to Plan B, and we're only in practice 2.
They've basically written off the first 2 or 3 races because they're saying that the car's not going to be competitive. Listen, Hamilton came out of a quote today. He said, "Where we are either where we were last year, if not a little bit further behind. We are just on the wrong track right now. We are a long way off the guys in front. There was good progress last year, and there was slight progress. You're like, okay, if you could continue this, he goes, but the gap wasn't as big as it is now, and the gap was big last year, and I'm like, oh, it's so frustrating, like, because Hamilton is he is ready to win at all times. It's not like, okay, you take someone like Alonso. I want to respect him, but he had got to a point in his career where I'm not saying he's just driving for the sake of it, but he was, just doing a job. It didn't really matter if he had won or not. He was doing his job. He even left the sport, did a little IndyCar, whatever, blah, blah, came back. Hamilton is trying to win. And these men are giving him and Russell, to be fair, a chunk of metal. They just got a chunk of metal, go out there and compete. And I was like, it's just painful. Hamilton ain't so. Listen, you can't win it all the time. And it's only practice. But I can't have another season of man sitting comfortably, maximum 5th. I can't do it. I can't. But I can't do it. Give the man a chance, man. Aston Martin, on the other hand, like Alonso and Aston Martin, they are coming. Well. Listen.
Well. So with Aston Martin, from testing and what we saw in practice, I mean, they've done very well in practice, to be fair. But from the testing, what we got from testing is that Aston Martin were actually the best team in going long. So in testing, they do hundreds of laps. Aston Martin were able to keep their tires alive for much longer than anybody else. They were able to go very long distances. And if they're able to be this competitive with fresh tires, with basically fresh tires, and you're keeping pace with some of the leading packs, they could come into races a lot later. Whereas some teams are doing 2-stop strategies, they can do a 1-stop strategy and try and usurp at the end of a race. Like, their strategies could be different. And if their car is reliable and you've got someone like Alonso who's won championships, 2 championships in the past, anything can happen. Literally anything can happen. So yeah, their car's built a little different. It's built to go the distance, but if they've also got pace behind a car that can go the distance with being able to keep their tires alive for a very long time, they could have a very good season. And because I don't even put much respect on Lance Stroll, and he's sitting there comfy.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Like he's in 6th, and Lance Stroll ain't no amazing driver. So if you've got like the man's ahead of Hamilton and George Russell, like you've got to put some respect on the piece of machine that they've put together this year. Like, they're not doing too shabby.
So, yeah, we'll see, innit? We'll see. It's gonna be interesting. I don't have much hope for Mercedes. I'm gonna be 100% honest. Not even myself. I've got zero hope. I've got zero hope for Mercedes.
Not even later on in the season.
It'll be too late by then. Because it's like, if they're not, it's not okay. Imagine you go into all right. Imagine it's football. We're going to strengthen in January, and you're the only team that's strengthened in January. Fair enough, but everyone's going to be like, Red Bull's not going to stop developing the car, and it's like, how the gap? If the gap is bigger now than it was last year, they would have to make a bigger jump than they were able to last year, which wasn't enough to close the gap. So. Listen, my hope, because if Verstappen's winning, like Verstappen can win 3 in a row, I don't even care. Like, it's not that deep in the grand scheme of things. Hamilton's got 8, 7. It's not that deep in the grand scheme of things, but it's just another year that Hamilton, I won't say it's kind of wasted. The man he's in championship, like he's at a championship winning level, and he's not winning championships. There's gonna come a point in his career where he's no longer able to win championships. And maybe that's when Mercedes get their act back together and have the car, and it's like, yeah, but he's not good enough anymore. So, yeah, it's gonna be a tough season. It might make it a bit more. It might be competitive early on, but I still see, like, can you trust Aston Martin to win a championship? Is again effectively what I'm saying. Are they gonna be strong enough to hold off Red Bull for a whole year. Because Red Bull has been listen, Aston Martin just come in terms, and it just come in terms of now challenging for a championship if they are going to be challenging. Red Bull were sitting in second, strong second for ages, just with Verstappen anyway, trying to challenge, and then they had the car, boom, they win the championships. So they're battle tested, they're battle ready, hardened. They know what it takes. Alonso knows what it takes. I get that, but do Aston Martin have what it takes to actually go the distance with Red Bull? I don't know.
Boy, you did. I mean, it's a good question. It is a good question. I mean,
it's like Arsenal. It's like Arsenal in the Premier League.
Yeah, no, everyone, it is.
They're the top of the league, but a lot of people are like, well.
But at some point, someone's got to do it. Like you get that 1 in a million. Like sometimes it happens. Leicester did it.
Yeah.
You're like, they ain't never been here before.
Braun GP. That was Braun GP, innit?
Yeah. That was a cheat. But at least, if they are going to do it, at least they've got some tools in their kit to say we can do it, and that's Alonso. He's been there and done it. He's seasoned.
It's not like
and it's not like he did it in a car that was like a frontline car. Predicted. He did it in a Renault where no one was like, whoa, like yes, I'm saying back to back with a Renault. So this is like similar territory with an Aston Martin. Can he do a obviously not going to be back to back, but it's like with an Aston Martin, it's a similar level. So if there's a man that can do it, it'll be Alonso. He's been there and done it. He's probably still got the mentality for it.
The thing with Alonso, everywhere he's been, other than McLaren, he's challenged for the championship. So at Renault, he challenged. I don't know where he was before Renault, to be fair. That might have been his first, I'm not sure. But at Renault, he challenged and won, obviously, the championship. At McLaren, he challenged for the championship with Hamilton. Then he went to Ferrari and he challenged. I think he finished second to Vettel at least once, maybe even twice. When he went to McLaren with Norris, they were terrible. I think, was it Norris was there? Or was it Ricciardo? I can't remember now.
Wait, when he went where?
When he was in the orange McLaren. Was it McLaren? He went there? Yeah, before he went to IndyCar, he was at the highest paid.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who he was with. I think Norris has always been with McLaren.
Yeah, but I don't know if Norris had entered. I wasn't sure if Norris had entered at the time or not. But it could have been Norris. But the car was terrible. And so he left the sport, and now he's come back and he's potentially got a car to challenge. So all but one kind of stint in F1, he's always been able to challenge for a championship. So hopefully, Aston Martin taking over from Sebastian Vettel, he's able to challenge for his championship. Because if not, Red Bull and Verstappen are just going to run away. They're going to run away with it. And I'm not one to be sour, but it's bad for the sport. It's only good for the sport of Hamilton. But you always want a competitive. Season. And
it will be, because if Alonso's up at the front, you will get to see some Alonso Hamilton action.
Well, I want to see
consistently.
But I want to see how Verstappen's going to deal with Hamilton. That's why I know Hamilton with Alonso, because we know how he likes to take these impossible dives up the inside, outside, and Alonso is no quarter given, none taken. His defense is impregnable.
Yeah, Alonso will have your head. No, there's no two ways about it.
I want to see Verstappen dive up and Alonso just make his car as wide as the width of the track. I want to see it. I want to see it. I hope they
surely Alonso would give him the respect, because he knows it's Max, and Max would do
it
regardless.
Alonso thinks, and I'm not saying he's wrong, but Alonso thinks he's the best driver on the grid. So in his head, he thinks he's the best driver on the grid. Verstappen thinks he's the best driver on the grid. Hamilton thinks he's the best driver on the grid. Like, whether someone's wrong, at least two of them are wrong. So there's no quarter given. It's like Lewis. At one point, Lewis was like, all right, Verstappen, go through. All right, go. And then man said, forget this. What? crash. That's it. I'll take you out. I'll take you out. You take me out. It is what it is, guys. And it was Alonso ain't gonna give an inch. He ain't gonna give an inch.
Not even half an inch.
Nothing. You know, if you listen, I wouldn't be surprised if
because apparently the rules is you have to give a car's width. Apparently.
Yeah, but if your car is as big as the wider track, then the grass is where you can get your width. Grass, take that to the grass or the gravel, innit? Gonna be interesting. I hope just for the spectacle. I think someone, it's like what they say, the immovable force, the irresistible force, and the immovable object. So you got someone who's so attacking like Verstappen, and you got someone who's so great defensively like Alonso. If they can have cars that are equally or there or thereabouts, I think it could have a great battle up top. Great battle. So that's what I'm looking for. And whoever wins it, wins it. Hamilton's not in the race. So I just want a competitive.
Man's written Hamilton already.
you got to know when to concede, innit? And I ain't getting my hopes up. Last season, come on, guys. Come on. Let's put, especially when Red Bull having the little issues everyone had these pool businesses. You're like, who can get it fixed first? Red Bull just shut that down quick time, man. Oh, well. But listen, guys, tomorrow, Bahrain Grand Prix, Bahrain Grand Prix qualifying from 3 p.m. The link to our F1 group, Fantasy F1 League is at the top of this chat. It's pinned. I'm going to put it into the description, actually, so anyone watching back can click that as well. So make sure you join that. It's also on our Twitter page. It's at the bottom, Neeks Sports Twitter. So make sure you go check that. Make sure you join that before qualifying starts. You have to submit your team before qualifying starts, or you're going to be one race down. It got very competitive last year, actually. Like some people were leading, and before you know it, someone just came from the depths. I can't remember who won it in the end. Who actually won it?
I can't remember.
Was it Ramon? I can't remember now. Actually, who won it? I can't remember, but it is competitive. Trust me on that one. It's very competitive. I didn't win because obviously I want to give everyone a chance. Me and Hamilton took the year off, and we might take another year off. But when we're back,
what about the year before? You didn't win the year before. The year before. What about the
Massey Tax, Michael Massey Tax.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but when we're back, we'll be back. Guys, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Thank you very, very much for joining us. Tomorrow, we're talking Man United. I'm going to be going through the Eric Ten Hag era so far, looking at the first domestic cup win of the season, the big Northwest Derby on the Sunday, and potentially what Man United can win. What Man United can win this season.
What was that in your throat? What was that in your throat?
Quadruple.
Some... Huh?